I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for the company. I'm very disappointed in myself. Not unusual, but it's not usually this profound, and it's not usually this good reason. I forgot to care about 9/11. We all did. And I am as much to blame as anybody else. I'm not pointing any fingers about this. I guess I'm going like this. There's a story that's out right now that you have not been smothered with today. And the more I think about it, it has been eating at me all day about how blanked up this is, okay? We all remember 9/11. I guess we remember. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. Maybe time does heal all wounds unless you were directly affected, like the families who are forever scarred and the families of the first responders, et cetera, et cetera. But this CBS video, CBS just got a video that supports an allegation that was made in a lawsuit by the 9/11 families that it wasn't just about Osama bin Laden, not just Al-Qaeda. This guy is a Saudi official, and that the Saudi government was involved. Now, is this the first time we've ever heard this? No, but we've never given a damn. And that's the part that just finally slapped me today, as someone who supposedly cares about what happened that day because I lost so many people I knew, and we would never forget, and all these things I could say that romanticized our attachment to that catastrophe. But we've just ignored this reality. You haven't been smothered by this today. The tape showing this guy, this alleged Saudi official, basically casing D.C. before the attacks. You've heard very little about it, am I right? You get sound of Donald Trump saying he lost the election, and it's everywhere, wall to wall on MSNBC. Oh, here's new tape of Joe Biden speaking poorly everywhere. Justin Timberlake gets a traffic stop that may be a DUI everywhere. But this tape that is every bit as damning as anything that we can show about any of those non-stories is all but ignored. And here's what galls me. This isn't new. So now I start digging in, right, to like, what have I been ignoring? And I realized I have been consistently ignoring something that matters wildly to now, not just to what happened then. There's reporting about this accusation from this lawsuit in May. The lawsuit that engendered the accusation from the families, because of course they care, right? All pain is personal at the end of the day. Lawsuit's older than that. We just forgot. What the hell is wrong with us? How addicted to petty grievance and party poison politics are we that we just don't care about real common concerns? I was on TMZ today. Happy to be, by the way, talking about Justin Timberlake and our obsession with certain narratives. I didn't even mention this. I'm on the show to talk about how we don't care about the right things, and I don't even mention this. The Saudi government may have had real connections to funding, planning, and the intentionality behind 9/11. Think about that. The worst terror attack on American soil ever, 3,000 plus. We know that 15 of the attackers were Saudi. That was always weird, right? We went into Iraq, but all the guys were from Saudi Arabia. Then we went into Afghanistan. They were still from Saudi Arabia. The Saudis never got touched. Every president from Bush on have been nice to them. And they may be the head of the snake that bit us on 9/11. The 9/11 Commission, which I hold out as the standard, the model for what I believe we need to do as an after-action review of the pandemic. They glossed over Saudi involvement. Well, to be fair, remember the 28 pages? You can Google them. They have their own Wikipedia page, by the way. They were eventually declassified in 2016, right? Yeah, and they showed that there was definitely funding of a couple of those guys from the Saudis, but the Saudis kind of explained it away as like it wasn't terror funding. It was like the guys just kind of juiced some money out of them for their trip here and what they were doing here, but it wasn't terror planning. I don't know. I don't think that's as true as it seems. Why are none of our lawmakers making noise and pushing process on what came out today? I think I know the answer. It's pretty sickening. There's no advantage over the other party in who started 9/11. Think about it. Well, the Republicans, who are they going to blame? It was on their watch. And what are the Democrats going to do with it? Especially the far left of that party. Who knows where their sympathies are? How sick is that? Both sides would rather, one side would rather dig on Hunter's laptop, the other one can't get out of Trump's jockstrap. Think about it. They'd rather deal with that than deal with this. What does that say? I mean, what am I missing? So I went back. I looked at all the cross-referencing on the videotape. I looked at who was picking up. I looked to see who was qualifying it. I looked to see who was pushing back. There's none. I go back, pull the lawsuit from the 9/11 families, look it through. They've been going after the Saudi government forever. And it's never gotten our attention. And all I do is spend my day trying to find stories that I think speak to our common concerns. Bridge stories, as opposed to just playing the game, participating in this BS side picking that we're obsessed with, apparently. What is a higher common concern than who did us dirty on 9/11? And now the tape comes out. Kudos to CBS for getting it, but it is not a big deal. What does that mean? Okay, so maybe it means I'm overstating how important this is. I reject that. Here's why. Is this a smoking gun, this tape? No, I do not believe it's a smoking gun. All right, then what am I so worked up about? Oh, it's far closer to damning than any of the other things that we're covering politically right now as allegations. It's not even close, okay? The proof that the Saudis may have done something or knew about something or participated in something or encouraged something that is as highly criminal as you can imagine, to me, is far more obvious than anything I've heard Trump accused of. And by the way, I believe he did pretty much everything he's accused of. So it's a pretty high bar. So I don't know. I don't know except to just do the right thing right now. The next opportunity I have to do it right, I'm going to take it. And that's right now. So why did it take so long for those 28 pages to come out? Why, when they finally did come out, were the questions kind of glossed over? Why has this lawsuit been ignored? Why do we base all of our policy in the Middle East on this understanding that al-Qaeda acted alone? It seems that at a minimum, is wrong. Video filmed 2 years before 9/11. It shows knowledge, the Saudi man, Mar al-Bayoumi. The FBI says an operative of Saudi intelligence. Close ties to 2 of the 9/11 hijackers. He's filming in Washington, casing the Capitol, showing entrances and exits, narrating about government buildings, the importance of D.C. and Congress, and he references a plan. Wait, look, let me show you the video.
أحييكم أيها الإخوة الكرام ونرحب بكم من واشنطن العاصمة الأمريكية. هذا هو الكونغرس. هنا تصنع القرارات وتتخذ الإجراءات. يقولون أن أبناءنا شياطين، لكن هؤلاء شياطين البيت الأبيض. في المقابل هناك هذا البرج الذي لم أكتشف اسمه بعد، ولكنني سأصل إلى هناك وسأنقل لكم بالتفصيل. أيضا والمطار بيت سعيد إحدى الطائرات المقلعة هنا لها مدخلين، مدخل من هذه الجهة السيارات مستعدة للإقلال.
You said that in the plan. Now, look, you could dismiss it just the way the Saudis do and say the guy's just a tourist. And he's basically just, doing directional narration. The video was discovered after 9/11 by British police who raided al-Bayoumy's apartment. I wonder why they did that. It was turned over to the FBI. I wonder why they did that. And it was kept until it was unsealed in federal court this week as part of this lawsuit. Why did they not want to release it if it's nothing? Why are the DOJ and the FBI asking a federal judge to not unseal the video and other 9/11 classified materials? Why? I think we got to start asking these questions, because otherwise I really believe that I'm talking about me, all right? I'm not blaming you, all right? Right? Well, I'm supposed to be doing this job for you. How do we say we respect 9/11? How do we say never forget and sleep on these questions? Shame on me. Let's bring in the former deputy director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, former official with the FBI's National Security Branch, Phil Mudd, and Terry Strada. Her husband, Tom, was killed in the 9/11 attacks. She is the national chair of the 9/11 Families United. That's the group pushing to make 9/11 material public. First of all, thank you, Phil, for doing this on short notice. Terry, you and I have never had exchange on this before, but I still want to say I am sorry that I have slept on your litigation. I am sorry. I'm supposed to be one of the people who was there that day, who watched what everything happened, and would never forget, and said it was life-changing for me and affirming of my sense of purpose in journalism. And I don't know where that went, because I've been sleeping on this. So tell people why you have been going after the Saudi government, why this lawsuit matters.
Thank you for your sympathies and all of that. It matters so greatly because, as you said, our policies have been predicated on that al-Qaeda acted alone, and that is simply not true. And we now know that this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was deeply involved in the planning, the plotting, the financial assistance that was given to the hijackers leading up to the attacks, and that al-Bayoumi was a Saudi agent. He was an intelligence officer for the kingdom. And the other two gentlemen, or the other two men that are in the video, were also working, they're diplomats for the kingdom, and they had ties to al-Qaeda. It's very important that we expose the kingdom's role in murdering 3,000 Americans on American soil so we can better protect ourselves going forward.
Yeah, and stop being friends with someone that we knew tried to help us once. Now, Phil, I called a couple of the brothers and sisters who are familiar with your jobs in the past, and I said, hey, am I just missing context here where you can't just point the finger in Saudi Arabia because there was some funding, because there's so much money out of so many different pockets? All five of them said, oh, no, Saudi Arabia is definitely a problem and always has been, but the politics are complicated, Chris. What am I missing, Phil? What is so complicated that we got to leave the Saudis alone about what happened on 9/11?
Boy, I don't know who you talk to, but I don't agree with them. We turned over every stone after 9/11. That's all we did for years. You may remember reading the New York Times back from 01, 02, 03, 04, 05. There weren't any other stories, Chris, including in our conversations, many of our conversations with the President of the United States, President Bush. There weren't any other stories except terrorism. Let me give you two perspectives. One, are there things that we needed back then to investigate regarding Saudi Arabia, including most substantially maybe the fact that a lot of the hijackers were from there, the ideology is from there, the money was from there? Yes. Does this video take us a step forward in saying that somehow the Saudis were complicit in 9/11? I'd say no way. And let me challenge you, that is not an operational video. I've seen operational videos from al-Qaeda. That's not it, Chris.
Look, I don't disagree wholly. I get why Terry thinks it's relevant because the guy has real connections. I totally get it. And I agree with Terry about that. But two things can be true. I'm not saying that this is part of their planning. I'm saying they knew or had reason to know, Phil, and that's why the 9/11 Commission redacted those 28 pages. And that's why it took almost 15 years to get them to come out. And that's why the DOJ and FBI still push back on this, because they want to protect the Saudi government because they mean too much to our oil life.
That's not true. Let me give you a different perspective from inside government. One really base fact. It is easy to classify stuff, and it's hard to make stuff declassified. As someone in the business, as soon as I sign a document, as soon as I send an email, that's secret. It's a problem when I make that not secret because people like you ask questions. That doesn't mean we did something wrong. That doesn't mean we're hiding something. That means when those documents about Saudi Arabia were redacted, people in the FBI and elsewhere said, we don't feel like dealing with this. When I read those documents, and those are years ago now, Chris, I don't think there's that much there. I don't think the documents are that interesting. They should have been redacted years before. But it's easy for the government to classify stuff, and they didn't feel like declassifying it.
Okay, so Terry, I want your take on this with just one little piece of information about Mudd, okay? I love Phil Mudd, and I trust him implicitly, and I have for a very long time. And I'm very open to pushback from him. He has only come from a good place in the many years that I've known him. But when you hear his arguments and his understanding of this, how does it square with what you believe?
I say he's dead wrong. I say that it is absolutely an operational video of casing the U.S. Capitol so that they could find their target when they were going to come in with an airplane and slam it into the U.S. Capitol. And thank God we had brave 9/11 family members that were brave enough to try to take back the controls of Flight 93. They were coming to kill our lawmakers. And it is egregious to sit there and say that they did everything they could, the FBI, when they hid a 10-year investigation into the Saudis from everyone, from the American people and from the 9/11 families, and that the Department of Justice right now, the Biden administration, Department of Justice, is fighting us in court and siding with the Saudis to keep everything under a protective order. If the Saudis are so innocent, why not just let it all out there and let everyone see the evidence that we know exists, but the government has decided to keep under protective order from all of us? It's egregious and it is criminal and it needs to end.
Phil Mudd, why doesn't the DOJ just release it all?
I guess I'm a criminal because I was part of that conspiracy. Let me give you a simple explanation, and that is we have a lot of things we deal with the Saudis on. I would not call them allies. I'll call them difficult partners. We deal with them on Iran. We deal with them on Israel. We deal with them on issues like Yemen and the Horn of Africa. You're talking about revealing information about how you potentially spy on someone who's working with you on stuff like Israel and Iran, how you spy on them. Chris, would you do that? I wouldn't. I understand the balance they're facing. How do we tell the American people what we know? And I understand the reason they don't do that, because you don't go out in public and say, this is how we're collecting information on somebody. We have to go to the next day and say, how do we do a deal with Israel? That is not about lying. That's not about criminal activity. That's about difficult balances you face in government. It is not easy, Chris.
Terry, I want you to know that I'm going to follow your lawsuit. As stuff comes out, we're a phone call away. You tell us what you believe deserves attention and isn't getting it. Phil Mudd, you are no criminal. You are a patriot. You did the job for the right reasons. You have been 100% reliable and helpful to me for decades. And I appreciate your pushback on this, even if I don't agree, even if Terry doesn't agree. Here's what we must all agree on. There are more questions than there is curiosity about the answers in the halls of our government about this. And I would like to know more about why. I'm not blaming you, Phil, and I appreciate you very much for talking to us. Terry, you have an ally, and we are a call away. Thank you very much for making your case here tonight. And Phil, I appreciate you answering back and helping inform our perspective on it. Thank you both. But I'll tell you what.
Thank you.
As we go to break, I am not going to make this mistake again. I'm not saying that it's damning. I actually side with Phil on that. I don't think it's an operational video. I understand why Terry would, because contextually she's saying, but this is proof that there's more there than they want us to believe. Okay, I'm with that suggestion as well. Two things could be true at the same time. But here's what is absolutely true. There's no way there was nothing worth looking at when you compare it to everything they believe is worth looking at. If you look at the things that they decide to chase down, Biden and Burisma, you tell me that this doesn't matter as much, and there's not every bit as reason to look into it. That's why I'm upset, and that's why I promise you this is not going to happen again. 4 minutes, 5 seconds. We're less than a week away from this first presidential debate. Trump says Biden cannot hang with him. In fact, you could argue Trump is betting the race on it. And you know why I believe that? Because guess what Trump's doing now? Changing his tune. Why is he all of a sudden talking nice about Biden? We'll talk to Governor Sununu about it next.
I watched him with Paul Ryan, and he destroyed Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan with the water. He was chugging water at a left and right. I didn't think a human being would be able to drink so much water at one time. And he beat Paul Ryan. So I'm not underestimating him. I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. Yeah.
Really? Why the change? I'll tell you why. Because this is Donald Trump. He wants you to believe that Biden is basically brain dead until he's now going to get compared to him toe to toe. And now you hear what he really thinks, that he's got to be careful with a guy who's brain dead. Help me understand. New Hampshire's Republican Governor, Chris Sununu, joins me now. Do I have it wrong, Gov?
No, you're spot on. Look, it's going into debates, whether you're on the planning board or running for president, you're setting expectations, right? You're setting that expectation. I think one of the challenges we have is so many Americans right now are seeing this entire presidential race, unfortunately, more like a reality TV show. Right? They want to see if Trump's going to be abrasive and lose his top. They're going to see if Biden's going to have a senior moment. And that's going to be one of the challenges for Jake and Dan. I think they're going to do a terrific job, but they got to make it substantive, right? And I'll tell you, I'm surprised and impressed at the same time. Trump is taking it seriously. His team is taking this entire campaign much more professionally than his previous races. I know they're practicing, they're strategizing, and I think that's where this kind of change in tone is coming from. They're really telling him, you got to set the table of expectations in order to make sure that we come out of this ahead. And it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be a pretty interesting night. I'm guessing I don't know what you think, but I'm guessing the ratings are going to be pretty high.
Well, look, I hope so. There's no reason not to want them to be high. You know, the more engagement, the better. I wish we had 10 or 12 debates. And even though I agree with your assessment of the CNN brother and sister there who are going to be doing the job, Dana and Jake, I wish there were no moderators, because I would like the American people to be able to judge these candidates as adults. And if they don't know how to treat each other, they don't know how to behave, let that be obvious. It's hard for the moderators to make it substantive. These guys only say what they want to say anyway. But Gov, one more step on strategy, and then I want to ask you for something for you. They've done too much, not you, but they've done too much at the campaign, let's say, to make people want to believe that Biden is brain dead, to now say, let's be careful about setting expectations. They went too far down that road, and now they're worried about looking bad.
I would agree with that. Look, I go to the State of the Union, right, that Biden did. Regardless of what he said, he came out with energy. It was a late night, hour and a half speech that he gave. He had energy. That was the talk the next day, that he didn't have senior moments. And so if that's the only story you're playing, obviously you have to start tampering that back. And obviously he's talking about taking it more seriously. And so, again, I try to think, well, how substantive will it be? Right? How engaging will it be? Will Jake and Dana be able to just ask the inflation question, or can they take it to a second and third level and get that discussion going? And to your point of making sure the adults, the better version of the adults come out, not having an audience there, while it was Biden's idea to not have an audience, I actually think that plays to a bit of Trump's advantage as well, because as you know, Trump likes to play to the crowd, right? He says something outlandish, he gets a positive feedback from his supporters, he doubles down on it. So I think by not having a crowd there, it helps Trump not get overly abrasive, not try to, play into the moment of the feedback that he's getting. So it'll be interesting to see, because I don't know if have we ever done a debate with no crowd at all? Like with no kind of background noise?
I think they've been done in the past. They've certainly been silent. We've done it. I've never done it, but it's been done, but not usually, not in the modern era. So this will be different. I agree with your analysis 100%. Now, I want to talk about you for a second. So I talk a lot with the people in my life about what I do on the show and who I have on. And I have been open and outspoken to you and about you that I think you're absolutely part of the future of this country. And I think that, people should be looking at you. So here's what I get when it comes on Trump. So I want to give you an opportunity to explain. You should be more like Romney. You can't talk about Trump and say, this guy's not even a real Republican, this guy's crazy, and then say, I'm voting for him, and be seen as the political figure that this country is desperate for, which is one who talks and thinks like the rest of us. Now, I say to people, be fair, Romney's on the way out, Sununu is on the way up, and that's why they're going to give different answers. But that's not that satisfying to people. They say if Sununu thinks he's crazy and not a real Republican, then that should be the end of the analysis. Why isn't it?
Because elections are about choices, right? When you go in, you have A, you have B. And if you're 51-49 for one candidate, that's who you're going to fill that box and that ballot in for. So I think, like myself, I think there's a lot of people that don't like a lot of aspects of Donald Trump. I don't take back anything I've ever said about him, but I'm going to hold my nose and vote for him because it's not just the president that I deal with as a governor, it's the administration, right? I want a Republican administration that believes more in individual rights and responsibilities and parental voice in the classroom. And again, it doesn't have this kind of one-size big government solution for everybody, gets rid of this wokeism that is I think, invading the culture of this country in a very negative way, and hopefully puts a little bit of fiscal responsibility back on the table. Trump wasn't great at that. It was very frustrating for me. But no, elections are about choices. So, and that's why a lot of folks, if they weren't, the independents right now, I never thought Trump would be leading in this race, right? But it's a neck and neck race. That shocks me. It shocks a lot of people. But the realities of where the Biden administration has brought to the table, it's crushing families, man. Inflation is very real. And it hurts. And one thing I try to do, I'm not trying to tell anyone to vote for Trump. Vote for who you want to vote for, but definitely get out and vote. But what I try to do is allow people, everyone has a different set of priorities. For some people, inflation and the border are top priorities. For some people, character is a top priority, or January 6th is a disqualifying event. I don't judge you for thinking that, but don't judge other people for having a different set of priorities. So, look, I don't take anything back, but sometimes when you're 51-49 for one candidate over the other, that's who you're going to vote for, and that's where I am with Trump.
Governor Sununu, I appreciate the candor and the explanation. I'll see you on debate night. Thank you for joining us, and you're always welcome here. Appreciate the conversation. Take care until then.
Thank you, brother.
4 minutes and 30 seconds. Absolutely. And I know that's a little weird. Wait, did Cuomo just say that he likes Sununu? Yeah, I do. You guys want transparency. I'm going to give it to you. Okay? I ask everybody the right questions. When he runs for something, he's going to have to deal with it. And one of the things he'll have to deal with is backing Trump, because who knows what we'll know about what's come to pass at some point in the future. But he'll have to answer for it, like everybody else. All right, I got 3 kids. One of them is 18, all right? I see this thing on Instagram, like Giuseppe's Garage, something that just jumps out at me. This segment that I'm going to bring you on, this father and son, and the daughter gets in on it also, by the way. It's called Gen X Talks. I'm Gen X, right? This guy's Gen X. This is what we needed. Parents, young people, watch this next segment.
Help me out. Your sister just said upstairs that she low-key still likes Justin Bieber. What does that mean?
It means she likes Justin Bieber, but doesn't really want to talk about it.
I just heard something that's very funny, but I can't tell you. But that's okay, because I've got other funny things to tell you. Now, as you know, Christina and I, we have 3 kids, right? 14, Cha-Cha just had her moving up today. She's now officially going to go into high school. Pretty cool. 18 and 21, all right? They're great. But often, there is a complete generational shift. Not as extreme with me and my parents, but it's there. And often it's like, wait, what is she talking about? What did I do wrong? How is this supposed to go? And I do feel like my generation is way more dirt and grit and tough than they are. Then I see this thing on Instagram. Communication between Gen Xers and their parents, Gen Zers. And it is what you're looking at on your screen right now. It's mostly a father and son, but sometimes there's the sisters involved too. But Mark Mendenhall and his 18-year-old son, Briggs, they've got millions of followers, and it should be millions and millions more. It's called Gen X Talks, and it's not just funny. It is so real. Let me play some of it.
Welcome to Gen X Talks. I'm going to be asking my dad 3 random topics, and he's going to have no idea how to respond. Let's just see what he thinks. What are your thoughts on electric cars?
You filming this? Electric cars? Who'd want a electric car to save pollution when you have to burn coal mines and natural gas into the air just to make the electricity? The difference?
What about millennials?
Other than the 3 that are already living in my basement in a onesie sipping lattes, snowflakes.
What about Common Core math?
I don't know. Common Core is 2 + 2 is green, and how do we all feel about it?
Briggs and Mark Mendenhall join me right now. That was their first video, by the way. And, it blew up. And I think everybody should check out what they're doing. First of all, Briggs, nice to meet you. Well done with what you're doing. And big man, I got to tell you, I just want to say thank you. You're funny. You are so real. And I think it is really helpful. So whose idea was this?
I appreciate that, Chris.
It was my idea, actually.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah,
Did you think
he hates
you and your mother's whose idea was?
Did you think that your dad was funny and that everybody would get his sense of humor? What did you think?
Yeah, that was the whole reason why I started in the first place, was because everybody, like all my dad's friends, think he's funny and stuff like that. So why couldn't I share it with more people just like him? So.
Mark, you seem unhappy even now. So you aren't acting, I take it. You are just generally distressed.
He tried to be TikTok famous when it came out. It didn't work, so he comes up with this scheme. So we'd already seen him walking around the house with that camera for months and months and months. It wasn't a shock when he started trying to get me to answer questions. I knew what he was doing, but what a dumb thing. Who wants to hear me yell at my kid for the stuff that everybody, Chris, we're all thinking the same things on stuff. We're all acting the same way, our generation. Why on earth would he want to pass that around? Everybody who sees at my age goes, yep, I already say that stuff. It's just, it's normal, man.
That's why. That's the only place I disagree. I was with you 100% until that last statement. You say it better. You do. You say how we feel. Let me show the audience why I know I'm right. Listen, it's just the truth. And he's always fixing stuff. I want to ask him what he does. But first, let's look at a clip of what they do, which I believe is just magic.
My friends never tell you stories.
I know. Oh, believe me, I know your stupid stories. Let's just say today's reason is epic.
Today's reason is epic.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything epic about this.
No, there's not. There's nothing epic about today. There's nothing epic about your stories, but that's the word you use. Everything you say is epic. The guy's car was epic. His skateboarding kickflips were epic. We had onion rings at this place. They were epic. You guys use epic like a comma.
Yeah, come on.
I can't force you to not talk like a moron, and you can't force me to listen to one. Go back with your epic friends and have an epic day. Go. You got to leave me alone, man.
That conversation we just had was not epic.
Out.
I just love it, and everyone I show it to. What are you so grumpy about, big brother? You are doing a service, and you're funny. Angry Santa.
But you got to be fair about this. How many other guys like you and I just talk that way when kids come up with that stuff? I mean, you got to be kidding me. I can't even believe you really want to record this because you're about to look really, really dumb right now, and he does it anyway.
No, it's beautiful because my kids see it the way Briggs does. And your daughter, by the way. What's your daughter's name?
Her name's Jade.
Jade, she's great too. She asks great questions. There she is. So my kids are totally with your kids. Like they'll say, yeah, no, that's funny, but he shouldn't say it like that. And that's not cool that like that thinks everything's got to be tough. I said, but that's the way we were raised. This is how we feel. Is that there is just something different about these kids, and this time it's our fault. It's not like it was with our generation. We were just trying to survive our parents. Now we made them like this, Mark. Real feely.
I don't know. I have a counter to that, Chris. I mean, you say that we're responsible for making them this way. I would counter with an old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Briggs, my thirsty friend, what do you think of your father's perspective?
To be fair with you, I agree with like 75% of what he says. Like I do say some antagonizing questions to poke the bear because, as you know, he's funny when he starts getting riled up.
Well, so what's with the other 25? You just wrong?
No.
What does that mean? What, have you seen 25% of what he says not right?
You say you've never been wrong before?
Not with you.
Yeah, you have.
You've been on this planet 5 minutes compared to me. 5 minutes. Don't
5 minutes, and I already know 25% of what you say is wrong.
Oh, can't wait for us to be off camera. You give me 5 seconds.
I got a little spin the wheel on how many times you're wrong.
Okay, yeah. You see, Chris? Do you see what I'm talking about? This all day long. He didn't script this. This is just him.
I want more. Do you guys have any plans for more?
He wants more.
See, now you're encouraging him. You're encouraging him.
I am.
Don't.
I think it's helpful for the country. I think it's one of the only dynamics where we actually can all watch, no matter what people believe about politics or anything, and say, I like this. I like what's happening here. This is good.
Don't listen to what he's telling you right now. Don't start listening.
Chris, we're bringing the country
it's New York. He's tired. Don't listen to Chris right now.
Together, man.
I'm
just saying.
Anyway, look, you got a fan of me. Please let me know if there is a next. I would love to help promote whatever you guys are doing. All the best to the family. You did a great job with your kids. You did. They're curious.
Thank you very much.
They present well, and they obviously love their dad. And it's just great. It's great to watch it. Briggs, thank you for bringing them here tonight.
Of course, man.
Thanks for having us on, Chris. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Look at those forearms. He would snap you like a twig. I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Up next, you have your say. Admit you loved it. How can you not? Go check it out in the break. I'm still laughing, Dusty. I'll tell you why I love it so much, the Gen X Talks. It's the same kind of deal with Giuseppe's Garage, which is, the kid, the people that we introduced, the Lottarolas. It's apolitical. Everybody gets it. And, that stuff is in such rare supply. Right now, whenever you're making a joke, it's always about the other side. And these things transcend that. That's why I enjoy it so much.
It's a common thread. My son just called and told Chris that was epic. Bonehead. I know.
Yeah. He's a perfect example.
Perfect example.
Our sons. Our son. We won't tell the audience how we refer to them. We won't say it, but we have a term for our sons. Anyway, who do you got, Dusty?
We're going to start with Diane from Strong Island. I think she's Long Island.
Ooh. Strong Island. What's your question?
Hey, Chris, it's more of a, here's the situation. All right, I'm no conspiracy theorist, not by any means. But why do you think the United States government is ignoring the thing with Saudi Arabia? We're getting money, we're getting oil, we're getting the whole thing.
Here's my guess. Here's my guess, okay? One, because it's not as bad as I'm painting it, that they weren't like complicit, partnering with Osama bin Laden. So I'm pushing it too far. And when you balance where they believe it is in terms of complicity with what we need from Saudi Arabia, which you heard Phil Mudd honestly assessing, and what you say, Diane, then it goes like this all of a sudden. And that's why. And that is disgusting. And I wish our lawmakers were as pissed off about this as they are about Burisma and about how Trump deals with his personal life. I wish, but they're not. Next.
Okay, so next we are going to go to Matthew from Los Angeles.
Hey, Chris.
Matthew, what's your question?
I know you're hosting a big thing with Trump and Biden next week. If you were moderating the debate, what would you ask Trump and Biden? And when are you going to get into politics? Because you have it in your DNA.
Oh, I definitely have it in my DNA, but I don't have it in my heart, in my soul, or in my head. So Andrew is more than enough, and he's the better of us when it comes to being equipped for public service, for sure. I don't like debates being moderated, and I don't think it's fair. I think you're going to have two great ones at CNN, Dana Bash, Jake Tapper. Forget it. I mean, that's top notch. But you shouldn't have to control adults, and it's not like they really control the conversation. I think you would get more out of it by seeing how they deal with each other and who's rude and who's not and how and why, how they handle themselves, personally. But what I think matters most is who believes more in the future of this country and which one of them can convince you of that. Which one can convince you that they care more about the future of this country and have it they more in their inclination, more in their heart to do something about it? That's what I would want to see if I could get them to evince from themselves. Next.
Okay, Jack from OKC.
Oh,
hey
Jack,
Chris.
what's your question?
Hey, have you ever heard of Democrat derangement syndrome? Because I just made that up about a year ago. The last time I saw Chris Sununu get grilled on like CNN or MSNBC or whatever. And I was like, that dude he's voting for somebody that broke his oath, which is the one thing I think is kind of unforgivable. If you're going to take an oath to serve the country, well, anyways, and then and they went through all this stuff that Trump did bad, and he's like, "Yep, he did that," and then he's like, "But I'm still voting for him." I was like, "What is that?" It's Democrat.
I'll tell you what it is. It's not
syndrome.
Democrat. No, it's not. It's not. It's the game. Functionally, it's the same thing. We have a language dispute. Here's what it is. He's saying, he's being honest with you, first of all. So good for him, Jack. But he's saying, I want the policies, and policies for policies, I have to go with this guy, I'll hold my nose. Here's his problem. People like you who are going to say, no. Something's got to matter more than just the next election, brother. And not much gets done anyway. And this guy being a bad guy should matter more to you than just what your tax plan is going to be. That's what he's got to worry about. All right, we're going to take a break. When I come back, those are great questions, by the way. Final thought. 4 minutes, 45 seconds from now. What matters more, winning? So the theme is, well, what matters? You know, the answer to that question. For you guys who say, hey, I keep trying to call and I can't get into the show, you will. I mean, we just have a lot of people calling, which is great. You can also get the Minnect app, Minnect, and you can ask me questions on that if you want. But it's what matters to you. So how do you vote for this guy when you think all these bad things about him? Well, because of the policies. So then winning the election, then those policies matter more to you than what kind of person they are. I think that's getting to be a trickier thing to justify with voters like you, who are not party first and who are not okay